Hi, everybody. This is Pastor Mike here, yet again with another Young Adults podcast. We're really thankful that you're joining us. And of course, Jonny is here as well.
Woo! Hello, guys. So good to be here with you.
And man, it's been, again, 2 weeks. Hard to believe that we are officially in summertime now. And it's pretty nice, pretty warm, and a lot of people are out and about doing things as restrictions are lifting. And we just started to think about that. A lot of things seem to be going quite well. And we're going to talk about something that I think we should have on the brain, and we kind of do already. What's next? And before that we get into that, just remember that we're not going to take over the whole conversation. We want to encourage you to be part of the conversation on Zoom following the podcast. You'll be able to click on the link in the description down below, and we'll be able to chat about that. And Jonny is going to be the host this week, so I will not be here, but man, it's going to be a great discussion. I wish I was actually part of that, but we're going to dive into this. And what we were thinking about was just literally what's next. What's going to happen when COVID is done? Now, we hear about, I'm not a newscaster or anything like that, but it certainly seems like every news person seems to be giving us bad news, even after good news. And we hear about the Delta variant and all this kind of stuff. But I think at the end of the day, if you're pro-vax or anti-vax, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about what's after restrictions lift. We know we can't stay like this forever. It won't be able to be like this forever. And if so, Jesus, come quickly. But I think one question that we want to ask in regards to what is next, what's the most important thing we get to do when COVID is gone? This is a fun one. This can be a fun one. When COVID's gone, what's the most important thing that we'll get to do? For me, haircut. And that's just in phase. Yeah, you too.
Also for me.
Yeah, right? So, that's just in phase 2. COVID not even being gone. Bring on phase 2 so all my barber friends can get money. Like that kind of thing. Sam, if you were watching this, man, I need help, but I don't want to get you in trouble. So none of that kind of stuff. But when COVID's gone, what is some of the most important things? Like, buffets? Is that going to be? Ooh, that could be good.
Ooh, yeah.
Are you a buffet guy?
I am a buffet guy.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Like I feel like there are two variants of people when it comes to buffet.
Okay.
Like the people who are worth the bringing along at a price point, and the people who just aren't. So I'm the kind of guy who will have a moderate amount of nearly everything. So I come out of it very full, but I made my money's worth. The buffet has served me. I've served the buffet. So.
Well, you know what? That's fair. I don't know. Like I do like a good buffet, but I find it's hard to find a good buffet. Like there used to be a place that was pretty decent in Burlington, and I'm trying to remember what the name of it. I think it was Tucker's Market.
Okay.
Tucker's Market, but it closed in the pandemic, but it was a super high quality buffet. Right? And you don't see that. It's typically quantity over quality.
Right.
So I know the Mandarin is still going, but I don't know. I don't mind the Mandarin, but I don't like paying for the Mandarin. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
So what would be some other things? Like food is definitely one. Like, are you a big...
Sorry, go on.
You go ahead.
Yeah, you were going to say sports, but I think even like music and concerts and gigs like that. I remember I enjoyed going to concerts a lot when I was a little younger, just because I had musician friends who would play at shows.
Right.
And so I always felt special going to a show and be like, yo, know that guy. I've given him a high five once upon a time.
Right. Like, so now, because this is a little bit of a fun conversation.
Absolutely.
Like, what would be some concerts that you would like? Like anything that we would know?
Ooh, you know what? I can never justify paying so much money for like an actual famous artist.
Right.
So I really enjoyed going to like the $20 shows my friends put on. I also enjoy supporting local. So at the time when I was living in Hamilton, um, my friends, they were in these two bands called Adelaide and Mount Farewell. And I knew all those guys pretty well. And it was always such a good time going to shows. And sometimes they would play at like different like, youth conferences that I would security guard at. So it was great. It was great.
Brady Anderson.
Brady Anderson.
I love that guy. He is amazing. One of my favorite people. Yeah, and you know what? There would be some people that would be watching the podcast that would be like, "Oh, I know those bands. They're amazing." Um, Definitely some Mount Farewell fans for sure. Yeah, concerts, sporting events, different things like that. I'm gonna be excited to be able to go to Florida. We go to Florida every year, typically after Easter, because Easter is like the WrestleMania or the Super Bowl of the church culture, right?
Yeah.
So once that's done, you can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief typically. But I got thinking about this, and you and I were talking a little bit about this. None of these things are wrong. Like, I think that you can have this mindset that having fun almost is unbiblical. And I just don't think that that's true. I think that pleasures of life and enjoyment, those are fine. But if it's the most paramount thing, then it's the issue, right?
Absolutely.
But I think that we have to think about, okay, we said that we needed God.
Mhm.
We've prayed a lot. You know, Lord, heal our land, get rid of the virus. We need you now more than ever. There's so much emotional sickness. There's so much um, brokenness that we see now because we can't leave a blind eye to it any longer, right? Just because we're noticing more things, we're noticing our brokenness.
Mhm.
So getting back into the swing of these things and our interpretation maybe of heaven on earth would be whatever we want. And I wonder if there's going to be things that we're like, are we selfless or are we selfish? You know, like are we people that enjoy gathering together because we know that it furthers our spirit and even our mind, or are we picky with who we gather together with and it has to be on our terms?
Mhm.
These are just questions. I don't have the answer to it, but I think that maybe collectively we might come up with some good responses here. Like, does gathering really matter?
Are you looking for an answer?
Maybe
I can give you
maybe
my
it's,
answer.
you know what? I'll take that.
um, I would say gathering is important. I mean, I think as the church is the body of believers rather than a place, the gathering of people is vital. But I would also say that people have used the excuse of like being unable to gather to sort of halt their own discipleship, being like, if I don't gather with these people, I don't attend church. If I don't attend church, I don't grow. And I think that's a dangerous thought many people have fallen into. Um, yeah, and just like taking ownership of the partnership with God, if that makes sort of sense.
Yeah.
So
You know what? I couldn't agree with that anymore. Like that's just bang on. I feel you guys can disagree with that, but I would agree. I think that that's very true because we feel as though, okay, uh, let's show up, be entertained, and I think that we look for entertainment more than we look for something that actually ministers and fills us, because entertainment feels better, right? So
Absolutely.
when I go home and I have a feel good sermon and I loved every song that was sung, and I even got to hang out with my little clique of the people I actually like at church, because there's a difference between the people you like at church and the people that you love at church,
Yeah.
right? Right. So it's really easy to say, hey, oh, there's Phil over there. Oh, good, he's gone. Great. Oh no, he wants to come out for lunch with us. Oh, I'm not feeling well all of a sudden. Isn't that how it works typically? So the best messages in my life have been the ones that made me go, I don't know if I agree with that.
But it
Right?
makes you think about it even more. Exactly.
Exactly. It kind of stung me a little bit,
Mhm.
where I'm like, it's either thought provoking or it convicts me, um, or it encourages me. Doesn't make me feel good. It encourages me. There's a big difference between feel good and encouragement. Encouragement can lead to feeling good, but it doesn't initially do that same thing, right? So,
Absolutely.
no, I think you're right, because so many people. I got into an argument with a pastor. I mean discussion, sorry. Another pastor and leader, good guy. I'm not going to say he's not a good guy, because he is, but he was saying how essential the church is. And I'm like, I agree with you on how essential the church is, and the church should be open if it's mandating meeting people's needs, and like physical and spiritual. But if your church isn't doing anything for a community and also building up, the people in your congregation to evangelize the gospel of Jesus Christ, doing both hand in hand, you're not essential.
No.
And you're definitely not going to be deemed as essential as far as the world is concerned. They won't deem that your door should be open. You'll just be like in the days of Rome, where you're just annoying. And why do we have these synagogues anyway? We should just burn them to the ground.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's kind of harsh, but like think about like outside the box of before you knew Christ, or maybe you were at least in around people that asked thought-provoking questions on what you truly believe. Like,
Mhm.
no one knows what we do.
That's right.
So um I think that we would be I think that there's some really good people that are doing it right too. Like we were talking a bit today, like you were in staff meeting today, and
Mhm.
we were talking a little bit about how it can be discouraging when you see people on the long weekend or something like that. They don't, you know, put their butt in the seat of the time that we had scheduled for you, um, to show up and listen to our content or watch our content. Like, if you think about it, it is really kind of funny. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
on just on both sides of the spectrum, it's just a very funny thing. It's like, okay, you should be coming to the thing that we've, produced for you on the time that we produced. And like, it is kind of funny. Like, why would we do that? But on the other hand, it's like, okay, like I should be going and, feeding myself to that extent and being poured into when it comes to corporately.
Mhm.
But it doesn't do much, like you said, if I'm not doing it on my own and
Mhm.
self feeding.
Absolutely. And I think we see a lot of kind of consumer culture when it comes to church. People come, they listen, attend, they get the entertainment, they receive whatever they want to receive from the message. But I think if you come just to consume, then you don't get to necessarily be a participant, right? And that's an active choice that like people have to ultimately make. And we see, I remember in staff meeting we were talking about like raising families and parents addressing like problems to the children, to the pastors about the children. Like everyone's putting the work to the pastors because consumer mindset's like, all right, I'm going to church. These people who are paid on staff are going to like facilitate my entire spiritual journey, and and hoorah, let's go. Whereas, no, like if you want to see your kids grow up in faith, you have to model that at home. If you want to grow at faith, you got to take steps as well. There's invitation, but there's also challenge.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. Like, okay, why did Jesus let go of his deity then? Right? Like, he did that so that he could give us an example of how to lead, right?
Mm-hmm.
If he was like we believe totally God, but I mean like in the sense that he was still fully man, right? He did empty himself. The word says that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was made a little lower than the angels. But he did that so that he would actually be an example that we could follow in how to lead, right?
Absolutely.
And that's why he said, follow me.
Mm-hmm.
Follow me. If he was just equality with the Father God, like total equality with Father God, it wouldn't be possible. You wouldn't be able to be in his presence.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't like you wouldn't be able to you would be able to go, whoa, that's cool, but you wouldn't be able to actively participate in the story really.
Exactly.
So we have to lead by example. So yeah, it's absolutely correct. And I had a conversation, and these conversations, I'm not picking on people. I just find it interesting. I
Mm-hmm.
always process things. I'm always kind of like thinking, I'm like, all right, what's going on here? And I was part of another Zoom call yesterday, and that's all we do now is Zoom. But we were just talking about this outdoor gathering. And okay, what are we going to do if it rains? Saturday's forecasting for rain. Well, there was a concert that was brought up in Atlanta, and it's they were like, oh yeah, it was pouring rain and people were still part of the worship gathering. And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, I know people in Atlanta. It's a Bible belt. Of course they're going to be at a worship gathering. And like context, unfortunately, I'm not like speaking this over the Saturday event, but typically in Canada at a church thing, if it starts raining, every excuse that we can come up with to not go to something,
To take
Canadians
it
will take it. It's
and
just
apologize after.
oh, and apologize. Yeah, I couldn't do it, man. It was crazy out there. Meanwhile, it was spitting. Like, yeah, we couldn't go. Like the kids were just crazy. The kids were honestly fine that day. It was just like I don't want to get up off the couch. It's
Mhm.
wet. We're so westernized, and then you see like you go over to different countries all over the world where they're hungry for the things of God, and they'll literally go to anything and everything just because
Mhm.
they want more of God. They want to uh, just partake of more of His presence, and that eternity is not even enough. That's a great attitude.
That's a
Eternity's not
very good.
not even enough. Like I want it now, and
Mhm.
and that's a cool thing. Um, what like I'll ask this question, and you had something here I think was really good. Um, what do you think outreach is going to look like?
Hmm. I mean, well, part of me wants to answer with saying or asking whether outreach had ever changed, so to speak.
Yep.
Because they're going out, meeting people where they're at, reflecting the love of Christ through word and deed. And I think that ethos doesn't necessarily change. with COVID or post-COVID or whatever the world's condition may be.
Right.
Because outreach is relational, right? You have to meet people. Like, sure, you can get easier access to like their emails or numbers, and I don't know, they can hop on Discord and chat with them. I do that with a couple people, but
Yeah.
But I think outreach, honestly, is going to look exactly the same. I think people may be a bit more hesitant. Depends. Like, I mean, the anti people would be like, all right, let's go. And thank God for them as well. And they're willing to be mobilized quickly and not care about health stuff to a degree.
Do you think we just overcomplicated it or like
overcomplicate outreach?
Yeah.
Like, I think when we try to make outreach confined to the borders of like a program, it's like, all right, we're going to like run this event where we're going to outreach, we're going to input all this data and throw out all these baits, and we're going to like do these all proposals, get it through the board, 1 2 3 4,
right,
pastor back through the board belt, and then yeah, I think in that sense it could be overcomplicated. But I understand like there's liability purposes, and when you do things corporately, there are some rules you got to follow so everyone's safe. But no, outreach is simple. Like, anyone could do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be an event. So
yeah, it's as simple as going to the park.
Literally.
Yeah. You know, I think that especially since kind of being back, I kind of felt that, in a lot of cases, I used to use the excuse, well, I'm a pastor and you'll probably have a greater reach than I ever will because you're still, that's an excuse too.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. Like, that's something, I get the idea behind it because it's like, oh, it's to encourage you that you can do more ministry than me, but really it can become a crutch and you can start to believe it. You can believe you can drink your own Kool-Aid and and you're like, oh, well, I'm just using this as an excuse to not talk to the person who lives next door to me. And
100%.
we've been finding, Nicole and I, that being willing to have our body language where it's approachable and look at people in the eye and be inviting so that you can even open up with hello and how are you. So Judah was at the park today, my son, and Nicole met a brand new family to the neighborhood, and then husband and wife, they said, well, we'll be seeing more of you. And she got to talk about what she does for a living. She got to talk about what I do and all that. It's that simple.
Absolutely.
It's that simple. I would encourage people to, like, if you're watching too, like, don't be afraid just because you have to wear a mask or something like that, or, you have to social distance. You can still have those conversations. And even people that are quote unquote COVID crazy, whatever, to each their own on stuff. I think that's fine, but they're still open to talk with you, just distanced.
Mm-hmm.
What you had something that you brought up too, and I want to talk about that, and then we're going to close. But yeah, why don't you go there? Like, to do with creativity in this time.
Yeah. So, like, for myself, to engage in mission has been like interesting because you do want to follow rules. But something I've been able to do, I live really close to an outdoor, like to a park basically. And I would play basketball at this court probably 4 times a week. And sometimes like I'll see like neighbors who live in either like the housing unit or in our apartments with their dogs. They're out for a stroll. I'll say hi to them. Sometimes I'll see just like moms with like random kids. I'll just talk to them for a bit. But I think in spite of like what you're able to do or not, like I think what was really important for me was to be present.
Right.
And I think the consistency in me being out there, regardless if there are people or not, like people in the morning can hear a ball bounce, they know I'm there. So even if they, I mean, in hopes that someone will strike a conversation, but yeah. So I think in the ways that I couldn't be like creative or like invent something new or pioneer something new, is just being present in the old regular stuff, even if no one's coming at all.
That is huge. Yeah, I agree, man. Like it's just uh you get discouraged easily, and I think that you just have to self-encourage in those moments that what you do does make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And there's times to like uh kind of reset and try something different. But I think consistency is key. If there's one thing in this season that we didn't have, it was consistency. I think that if you're a left wing or a right wing person, whoever you vote for, the main thing you hated in this time was that nobody stuck to a rule no matter what it was. Even if the rule made sense or didn't make sense, the fact that it was changed like so quickly bothered
Mm-hmm.
people more than the fact it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, would you just pick a system already? Oh, would you like, and I'm totally on board with that. I think everyone would agree on that one thing where it's just like, okay, we can't even use the excuse anymore of, okay, this virus is so unknown. Well, you're the expert. You're telling us, even if it doesn't transmit that way anymore, why don't you keep the thing in place instead of changing it? Because people don't like change.
Mm-hmm. They do not.
So when you're not there accessible to someone anymore in that way, people, it's going to drive them nuts.
Absolutely.
I think you're right. I think that we have to be consistent. I think you have to be annoying when you call people and
Yeah.
be annoying, like be encouraging in the next season, outreach and stuff like that. What's next? Whatever God's put on your heart, do it. Shia LaBeouf, just do it. Just do it. And be consistent in it, because people will respect you.
Absolutely.
They'll respect that. They'll see that there's something within you that is trustworthy, because I believe consistency helps to breed trust.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that consistency will trump creativity.
Absolutely.
I think you're bang on. I think that's great. But guys, what do you think? We're going to wrap up for now, and we're going to talk about this. What are your thoughts? What are some creative ways? Maybe there's something that God is even placing on your heart. You know what? I need to work on this. I would encourage you to share. And you have no idea the power of your sharing, your testimony, even what God is placing on your heart. One of the best things that we can do is to actually speak up, share those things. Even if you think it might be foolish, it might inspire somebody else to be
Mm-hmm.
foolish as well, in a good way. And we're going to talk about those things now. Lots of great things that are coming up. Don't forget about the worship night on the 27th at 6:30. It's in person and online. Whatever you're comfortable with, join us. It's going to be great. We have Carlo and Maddie Rizade from Bethel in Stratford. They're going to be leading us in some worship, and it's going to be great. And then on the 25th of July, we will be having another worship night in person and online at 6:30 with special guest worship leader John Slater from Movement Church in Woodstock. So we're really excited about some of these things that are coming up, but it's so much better to do life together. Don't be alone. If you need anything, reach out, and we want to be present. If you have a testimony of encouragement, you got to tell us, because it will really encourage other people. So we will see you in the Zoom call now. And we look forward to seeing you on Monday. If you're watching along with The Chosen, we're out for now. Mike and Johnny signing off.